9:15 on the morning show with Jeff and Will, AM 1700 WRCR, Haverstraw, WRCR.com. Welcome back, everybody, and we welcome in Tina Traster. She edits and publishes the rcbizjournal.com website. That's the Rockland County Business Journal, rcbizjournal.com. Welcome, Tina. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Very good to hear that.
All right, moving on. So switching from AI to human being, let's talk about housing. The Rockland County public officials from towns and villages showed up at the county's second annual housing forum on Friday, which was a very large gathering at the Firemen's Training Center in Pomona that was focused on the housing crisis, the lack of housing diversity, meaning our love affair with single-family homes has put us in crisis, and more, germanely, a dearth of affordable housing in Rockland County. The director of community development, who was sort of the main speaker at the forum, quote, said, "Housing is wildly unaffordable to the average Rocklander." And we will be bringing out a piece with all of the good data that was presented, eye-popping data, really. But in the meantime, what I wanted to say that this event was brought together Rockland County Planning Department, the community development, panelists and experts, largely from other counties, as well as Pattern for Progress, which is a sort of think tank that has come out with a big report on housing. So, as I said, shocking numbers do tell the real story of the housing crisis. But for now, I wanted to look at what's happening in what I'm going to call a tale of two villages, that being Piermont and Nyack, as well as a proposal in New City for two apartment buildings that together would bring, I think, nearly 400 units or so into New City. But we'll get back to that in a moment. So in all three cases, and two of which have already spurred pretty passionate opposition, almost none of the units are affordable, are proposed to be affordable. I think in the Piermont development that's proposed on Main Street, which we spoke about last time, I think that's 14 units. There's no affordable housing. And in a proposal in Nyack, out of 18 units, I think 4 are proposed for affordable. The two, we'll speak in a little bit about New City, but I don't believe that either of those proposals has any affordable component. And I mean, no, I think maybe one has maybe a handful. I'll come back to that in a moment. Anyway, the proposals in each of the 3 municipalities are rental apartments that will probably continue to be out of reach for millennials looking to move into the area. Workforce housing, which is what there is the biggest crisis for. I mean, businesses cannot run their businesses if the workforce cannot live here, and seniors looking to downsize. Now, what's interesting in both Piermont and Nyack is that in both of these villages, there's a rising movement of activists who are kind of leading the fray quite vigorously, especially on social media, on Facebook. For example, in Piermont, which we've been reporting on, the residents are banding together to fight a modern sort of apartment building in the village's downtown. And I would say, objectively, anybody could look at that rendering and say, yeah, I could see how that doesn't fit in Piermont's, Victorian downtown. But is the question just simply architectural blight, this being out of character, or is it just an absolute aversion to any kind of multifamily proposal that becomes a conversation about, immediately kind of jumps to the conversation of overdevelopment. Further along, and in similar vein, is also a citizen activist campaign to fight what some are calling the, quote, urbanization of Nyack. I think that boat left a while ago, but anyhow, they're drawing comparisons between like the village and places like Fort Lee, simply because the gateway area of Nyack on Upper Main Street has seen about 3 multifamily projects in recent years. Also, rather modern architecture, although up on the upper part of Main Street, there's I was going to say very little, but I'm really going to go with almost no Victorian character on the upper Main. That part of Nyack has been pretty, I don't know, blighted to say the least. A lot of derelict buildings, nothing of much character up there. Especially, Route 9W and Maine, there's a new housing development there. If you're already in that Route 59 commercial district. So, but yet there is suddenly this movement to say, we don't want any more multifamily housing, that it's ruin Nyack. And yet, in Nyack, like in other places, recent comprehensive plans that have been updated highlight the need for this exact kind of housing, multifamily housing. The real issue, I think, is the lack of affordable housing. So in some of the village are so in Nyack, the development that's got a lot of attention recently, and what we also talked about here on WRCR, is the proposal to build an apartment building to replace a gas station. And that, too, is a very modern structure.
That's the one on South Broadway in the village, right?
Yeah. That's the one on South Broadway, and there was some, slated for diagonal parking out front, and that was something of an issue. But again, is it simply that the architecture is just too modern and fights with the next door Victorian building, or is it simply that there's just this rising movement of no, we don't want any multifamily housing? And as so now in that proposal, two of the units out of 18 are affordable. So there's 2 issues. One is Nyack and Piermont. Are these buildings just out of character, or is the issue itself that they don't want multifamily housing? And then from the other side is, okay, so if these planning boards or zoning boards or town boards, village boards do end up approving these proposals, where is the affordable housing component for in a county that is absolutely in the midst of a housing crisis? So there's a lot that needs to be sorted through in terms of what the priorities are. Now, we just published a new piece about the owner of ShopRite, the ShopRite Center on North Main Street in New City, hoping to transform an underutilized portion of their property to build a new mixed-use residential tower and 2 retail buildings. And in this case, K/BTF New City LLC, that's who owns the shopping center, plans to build a 6-story, 152-unit luxury apartments. There's a 7 to 8 affordable carve-out in that one. So that's the other one. This is on. This is, hold on a second, 140 units. 140 units on the ShopRite proposal. And then there's a second proposal that I think we've talked about it, we've written about it. It's called New City Living, and that's a 6-story, 152 units. That one has a potential 7 to 8 carve-out for affordable units. So in all, what we could potentially be looking at is an additional 300 apartments, rental apartments, market rates of luxury rental apartments, right in the middle of New City along Main and North Main. And again, out of 300, we're looking at maybe 7 or 8 affordable units. So it's two issues, and how they relate to the bigger issue, which is a lack of affordable housing overall in the county. Any thoughts so far before I give you a little bit of a summary of what went on in the housing forum?
Well, I have two thoughts. One on the first batch of stories you were talking about is that I really don't understand, and I don't live there, so I get that, but I don't understand the whole objection to buildings on the objection that, well, they don't look like what's already there, therefore we shouldn't build it. And maybe that's just the reasoning, and maybe that's something
Jeff,
else,
you just don't have OCD like the rest of us.
Oh, I definitely do. I do when it comes to certain things. I do, but not. For that, I don't get it. I really don't. The other aspect is that you're talking about affordable housing. Is there a definition of affordable housing versus low income housing? So what's the definition?
It has to be the median income of the prospective area that it was going to be. The rent is based on the median income of the area.
Okay, so
yeah, there's a formula. I've mentioned it before. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there is a formula. I mean, I'll tell you what was said at the forum, the county forum, is that affordable is anything that's under the threshold of where people are spending 30% of their income for housing. So I think that hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that applies probably to either mortgage or rentals. Think about it. I mean, if one bedroom apartments are going for $2,700, how much do you have to earn as a millennial before you can afford to rent a one bedroom apartment? I mean, that's like about $30,000 in rent. So then you'd have to be at a salary. Let's just call it $100,000. So
okay,
that math doesn't really make sense for, I think, a lot of younger people.
Well, it depends upon the area you're looking, I guess, based on parameters that you were just mentioning. I mean, but there are different areas that have different median incomes.
No, but I'm saying that if we're seeing one bedroom units, especially everything that's being built and proposed, I mean, those rents are not starting at anything less than, I would say, $2,700 or so for a one bedroom, which is pretty small as it is. So there's definitely a disconnect between, what is needed in the ecosystem to function as a county with a healthy business economy and what housing is available to do that in. And also, let me just mention.
No, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, Tina, I apologize, but we do have to go because we have another show coming on at 9:30, so we have to break it there. We'd love to talk to you more about this next week, and you can read more about it in the pages of the Rockland Business Journal online at rcbizjournal.com. Tina, thanks so much. Happy holidays to you and your family, and we will talk to you again next week.
Same to you.